Good day, Creative Spirit. And today I'd like to start the session by acknowledging the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Ojibwe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and the neutral nation Attawandaron, on which I sit today, and the treaties that this land settlers' ancestors made with First Nations. Creator, as we come together, gathered on this land, keep us mindful of the covenants that have been made and broken with First Nations peoples. Be with us as we strive to make right with all our relations. May we live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all who live, work, and worship on it. Let's sing from Voices United, number 307, Touch the Earth Lightly. Touch the earth lightly, use the earth gently, nourish the life of the world in our care. Gift of great wonder, ours to surrender, trust for the children tomorrow will bear. We who in danger, who create hunger, agents of death for all creatures that live. We would be foster, clouds of disaster, God of our planet, forestall and forgive. Right now be gleaming, earth from the burning, water that blesses and air that is sweet. Health in God's garden, hope in God's children, regeneration that peace will complete. God of all living, God of all loving, God of the seedling, the snow and the sun. Teach us, deflect us, Christ reconnect us, using us gently and making us one. Our next hymn is from Voices United again, 296. This is God's Wondrous World. This is God's wondrous world, until my listening ears, all nature sings and proudly hears the music of the spheres. This is God's wondrous world, unresting in the That's right. It is this coming Sunday, Earth Day, or Earth Day Sunday. Yes. April the 22nd is Earth Day, and as this coming Sunday will be the closest preceding Sunday to that Earth Day, this week then is Earth Day Sunday. A reading from you for you from the United Church of Canada's website. And this is written by Catherine Durrell, who's the senior editor in the communications unit at the General Counsel office. She writes, "My father was not much of a churchgoer. I still vividly recall him putting dollops of pancake batter onto a sizzling griddle or devouring a weekend newspaper on Sunday afternoons when I came home from singing in the local church youth choir. But my father is a deeply spiritual individual. A research scientist by profession, he believed that faith and nature are incredibly intertwined, and we have nothing short of a calling to care for the earth. An immigrant from the UK who remains passionate about Canada's unspoiled spaces, my father instilled important environmental lessons. He taught me that our lands, fresh waters, forests, and the creatures that inhabit these places are a gift, one that we are trusted to protect for future generations. I grew up seeing what it meant to be a good steward of this planet. My father quietly led environmental efforts, such as raising the alarm about acid rain on the lake that was home to our cottage. As a kid, I cringed at being part of the only family in my suburban neighborhood to have a composter in the backyard. I checked to make sure no one was watching as I slipped putrid banana peels and soggy coffee grounds into the bin tucked under a lilac bush. My dad's legacy is evident in every declaration to my own kids that the very future of our planet depends on them remembering empty paper rolls go in the blue bin, not the garbage. In 2018, Earth Day, always marked on April the 22nd, fell on a Sunday. Sunday, of course, is the day when many of us go to church and are encouraged to reflect on our faith and accompanying values. To this, my father would say, it is how we live each day that speaks most loudly of our ethics. Still, the United Church's commitment to environmental issues and eco-justice was a strong factor that pulled me back into church in my early 30s. In nature, I find and connect with a divine presence. Indeed, there is a growing body of research that reveals meandering through forests or fields is a type of therapy, a respite and balm for our urban-weary, spirit-starving souls. I admit that experiencing nature is the closest that I ever come to feeling, even seeing God. As a song of faith says, God is holy mystery. Nature, too, awes us with glorious sunsets that rival the hues of tropical fruit cocktails. She humbles us with torrents of rain and sheets of sleet that force us to abandon our plans and remind us of our small place in the universe. A friend who lives in Northern Ontario posted a photo on social media that emphasized nature's hushed sense of sanctuary. The image, taken out her back door a week ago, showed a serene pathway into the wood. It was lined on both sides with soaring evergreens arching inward toward one another under the weight of pristine snow that looked like some sort of giant creature's glittering pixie dust. "This is my cathedral," she wrote. A song of faith captures the magic of nature in its poetry. We find ourselves in a world of beauty and mystery, of living things, diverse and interdependent, of complex patterns of growth and evolution, of subatomic particles and cosmic swirls. Let's make every Sunday Earth Day, so we never forget our sacred call to care for the natural world and all its wonders. Let us pray. Creating God, you have called us to be in loving relations with all the earth, living with respect in creation, choosing love and seeking justice at all times. Instead, humankind has acted in hateful ways, exploiting natural resources, choosing power and seeking wealth in the present over future abundance. We need your help to fight for a better future. Help to reawaken our love for creation that is so magnificent that we, with all our creativity and knowledge, could never articulate it, and so passionate that we, with the personal price and communal cost, would still fight for it. Help to deepen our relationships and love for each other, affirming the wisdom of youth strikers so that we are not discouraged by empty platitudes and naysayers, and growing our community of allies so that we can create a sustainable and faithful response to the imminent climate crisis. For the sake of your majestic creation and for the love of all our relations, help us to fight for a better future. Amen. It's interesting that this week in the lectionary, there's a reading from Luke, chapter 24, verse 36 to 48, in which Jesus asks us to be witness. And, his disciples don't believe that he is anything but a ghost, and he asks them to touch him and feel that he is flesh and bone. He asks for food and he eats it. Witness is a very important, it's very important in this day and age. It's one of the reasons that why people post things. I mean, one of many, of course, reasons why people post things on social media. It's one thing just to say that, hey, I went to such and such a place, but then to post photos, right, of that individual or ourselves in that place, so that other people can be witness to the fact that, yes, that individual was there, or they did this thing. I think that, yes, with the idea of witness in context of the earth, that it is also very important anytime that we need to be witness of the good and the bad. And so a witness, this is from a reflection from Cheryl Lindsay from the United Church of Christ in the U.S. And she says, we are witnesses. A witness is someone who has seen something, been a party to something, who has expertise about something, who shares their testimony when called upon. There are witnesses to accidents who may have simply been in the area or may have been involved in the crash. There are witnesses to a crime who may have been an accomplice, a victim, or an innocent bystander. Witnesses can then take multiple forms, those with active participation, those with passive participation, and those with no participation, but are among the crowd. There's an old saying that there are three types of people: those who make things happen, those who watch what happens, and those who say, "What happened?" Witnesses tell what happened, but their testimony comes from the perspective of their participation. And part of what I'd like to focus on today, or give you an opportunity to partly experience and be a witness to, is something for this Earth Day, is something called taking a sacred pause. And certainly what we do at Creative Spirit a lot of the time, we would consider part of our spiritual practice, is not unlike taking a sacred pause. But sometimes it's what we do is, and oftentimes I say, try and get yourself involved in how does the paint move on the paper? How do the colors blend? You know, are there perhaps other smells? Are there sounds going on around you? You know, play some music. It's all part of those senses, right? That is part of being witness. If you ask anybody who saw something great or horrible, they likely, all senses were alert, and they could probably tell you what they saw and you know, what they smelled, and or maybe not necessarily in words initially, but if they were to smell that same smell again, they would be taken back to that moment, right? So part of Earth Day, I'd like to talk to you about this sacred pause and being witness then sort of to the earth. And I'm going to give a link in the YouTube video, and this is from a section of resources called For the Love of Creation. And so take a sacred pause for the love of creation. Now the word sacred, in this particular case, is also in an acronym. So you begin with a pause. You stop whatever you're doing, and S, you use your sense. Sense, use as many senses as you can. Notice the sounds and the smells. Look wide, look soft. Choose something and look close. Feel with your skin, your bones, your muscles, like to your core. Feel your breathing. Notice any reactions you might be sensing in yourself, whether it's alertness, curiosity, fear, restlessness, attraction or distraction. And then appreciate. So the A, appreciate. And focus your attention on something that's near you. And take as long as you like. Notice all you can about it, its colors, its shapes, its textures. Appreciate what it is offering to you in this moment. Appreciate it for simply being itself. Acknowledge and give thanks for this gift of the Creator and of creation. Speak your gratitude out loud. C, connect. Is there a story, teaching, or an image that this brings to mind? Think about who or what depends on this element. On what or on whom does it depend? How does it give? How does it take or receive? Consider any threats to its safety. What will become of it in a day, a year, 10 years, 1,000 years? How will threats such as climate change and severe weather patterns impact it? And R, respect. Think of how you relate to this element. How do your actions or inactions impact this part of creation? How do you show care and respect for this element? Are there actions you will take to protect, to heal, or to honor, or to cherish? And E, express. So express, show your appreciation and respect by making an offering. You can do this with words, a prayer, a ritual, a song, a dance, art. Just a few things, for example. You might offer water, tobacco, or a lock of your hair. Take an intentional action in the moment to express your love and respect for this unique and precious part of creation. And D, the D of sacred, is delight and deepen. So as you leave this pause, or return to your walk or your swim or your task or whatever you took that pause from, allow the feelings and sensations to deepen in you. Delight in the connections you noticed or the concern you felt. You may want to take time later to reflect using silence or arts or creative spirit time, journaling or other methods, perhaps in the context of your own spiritual tradition. So that sacred pause piece will be linked for those of you within our weekly creative spirit groups. You'll have received the PDF of it, but I'll send for everyone else. I'll send the link. Some wonderful resources on For the Love of Creation. So that's a pause. That is that time to take witness and to say that, to not just to be present, but to be aware. The more that you are aware, the more that you witness that which is happening around you, good and bad, the more then that you will have understanding and can take a stand to correct what may be wrong and to appreciate and rejoice in that which is right. So one more hymn from More Voices, 135, Called by Earth and Sky. Supplies you're going to need for today's Earth Day inspired spiritual practice time for, what do we call it? I've seen it listed as being branch weaving. I've seen it listed as being stick weaving, you know, whichever floats your boat. So what you will need essentially are some sticks and or branches. And here's an example of stick or branch that I'm you know, looking at. So I just went looking for dead wood. I'm not cutting down any, you know, living part of tree. This is all dead wood. So And the Y that you're looking at, so you're looking at a branch that has a Y in it. And technically it could even be have been a straighter branch with the Y going out this way. It doesn't really matter. But your weaving area then will be within this Y. Now that's not to say that you have to weave straight from here to here. You could just be a strip through here and leave some space here and leave some space on the end. That's totally up to you. So it doesn't matter necessarily the size of your Y. It's more about how much room do you want and or need to weave with. All right, and you can start with something that's fairly small. I don't want to do too small. That's going to be, if you go with a branch that's only about this big and you're thinking, well, I just have a little area to weave then, keep in mind that the smaller the area to weave, you have to get a darning needle or your fingers and the other ropes and twines and yarns and threads and things through that. So the smaller that it is, it's going to be a little more difficult to manage. If it's too large, you're going to need, you may not have enough supplies at home. So somewhere in the middle, right? Happy medium somewhere. A couple of the other pieces. So here's a piece. And see, this is a very small area, right? This is going to be a very small, oddly enough, even though the branch itself is fairly thick, that's going to be a very small space to weave. And then I have not a very wide Y, but a very tall Y. So that allows then for this whole section to be woven, right? So whatever you find, until we start doing a few of them, we won't fully know exactly what's going to work best for us, right? The other thing that you will need is a pair of scissors, okay, because you're going to need something to cut your yarn or your thread, and then all the things that you have to work with for creating your woven piece. So we've got some twine, and twine comes in a wide variety of widths, so whatever you might happen to have at home as far as twine goes. String, good old string. Now you could go with all natural fibers, right? And that way that if it were outside and you wanted to add it to your garden, it would over time biodegrade and it wouldn't, contaminate the earth. If you wanted as a wall hanging, so something else to think about when you're creating these is, is it something that is going to hang or that it's going to sit, on a wall this way? Would it be hanging this way? Would it be stuck in a vase or a planter or something this way? Right, and maybe you won't know until it's actually done, or as a lot of our art goes, right? It takes on a life of its own, so you're not 100% sure which way it's going to go. Yarn, so any kind of yarn. If you've got cotton yarn, then of course, then that's better. If you're wanting to stick with an all-natural, recycled resources, of course, are also great. So some yarns. I've got some paper-based string here as well. Again, more twine of varying types and conditions, if you will. I've got some leather pieces, and that's, some of it's a little more like shoelace, some of it is, more like that you would use in jewelry. This might even be hemp twine or thread that I've got. And then there's the things that you wouldn't necessarily think of. I mean, you could use ribbon. If you've got a stash of small-sized ribbon or odds and ends that you're not exactly sure what to do with, this is great because in a lot of cases you may not need a long piece. If you want sections of color and you've got a big area to weave into, then longer sections. But if you've got, right, a small area, smaller pieces, and a ribbon, you would only need that which is going to fit into your grid anyway. Some of the other things that you might not necessarily think of, you could weave in feathers, right? Depending on how sort of mixed media. If you want to go traditional woven, when you think of like those beautiful woven placemats or woven dish towels that are, have been done on a loom, then you can go with something that's a little more consistent throughout, various yarns that are consistent as to the type of yarn, the size of yarn, whether it's a finer or more bulky, and changing up the colors. But if you want to go for using odds and ends so that it doesn't get thrown out, right, as this is Earth Day, then you could use something like pipe cleaners. You could even use to weave in and out. You could use feathers if you, raid your kids' crafting areas, and who knows what you may find. You could weave these in and out. Cheesecloth. If you had cutting a longer strip of cheesecloth and wind it up, you could actually use that to weave in and out as well. All right. So there are some things to think about. Old shoelaces, maybe perhaps ones that haven't broken or that have, depending on the length of the original shoelace. Shoelaces would be something that you could use. Think about it. Think about what you might have, and even paper. If you've got a beautiful piece of paper that you wanted to cut into a strip and weave it in and out as well, around or in between some of your other yarns and strings and things, that would be lovely as well. So it's kind of whatever you feel like, but at the basics, all you really need is string or twine or yarn, and your Y stick and a scissors. And a darning needle would really help, but not necessarily. Okay, so let's see how this goes, shall we? We'll take a moment to recenter ourselves now before I send you on your way to explore your spiritual practice. So feet as flat as you can on the floor, and comfortable in your chair, and your back upright. And let's take a full deep breath in, and breathing in the love of creation and the love of the Creator, and sending that love and respect back out into the world, and breathing in the love of creation and the love of the Creator, and sending that love and respect back out into the world, and breathing in the love for creation and the love of our Creator. And sending that love and respect back out into the world. And together we say, Creator God, quiet my mind before it passes judgment on this prayer, my gift of time to you. Amen. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy your creating with the elements. You may find that you prefer, once you have your Y branch and once you have some twine creating the warp, creating the essential weaving pattern for you, that you want to just, perhaps you've got leaves and, like I say, other twigs that you want to weave in, or feathers, or other elements that you can find that you can weave in to give yourself that full, rounded sense of weaving together all of creation and how important it is that it is as one. And again, take a sacred pause, that's sacred, that sense, appreciate, connect, respect, express, and delight. That sacred pause in a moment of your day when you're feeling disconnected, or perhaps at any point during the week, or maybe throughout this whole week. That would make you feel more connected. And again, it is being that witness to creation in order to understand and be aware of what we need to do to maintain and help heal the earth. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.